There's a lot of interesting shit going on, and a lot of people that are interested but don't have any background or whatever that are looking for digestible information.
And like most of the psychedelic podcasts, or like any a lot of the stuff out there is like all like kind of really repetitive. It's all the same, surface takes, or it's like almost like it seems like a curriculum. Like even in like the conspiracy world, like people go down like a certain rabbit hole and they hit like certain levels.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's like, there's definitely angles in terms of coming with just like a unique perspective on it. That's not just the same old like couple ideas rehashed.
Was it you who was telling me that people are pressing all kinds of fragrant herbs in their presses now, like mint and catnip and shit like that?
Well, I know people have done that with bubble hash. Like I know people make, have made bubble hash essentially, quote unquote, with you could cold water extract like lavender, hops, mint, rose. And Bubble Man, the guy who made the bubble bags, like he was the one who really like I heard the most about that topic from him, where he made mint hash and he mixed it with like some really strong bubble hash that would make him cough a lot. And he noticed that he didn't cough at all, and then he started going down the rabbit hole, and he learned about menthol. And he learned that like the cigarette industry, the tobacco industry, like spent tons of money, 40s or 50s, I don't know when, to research something that would suppress cough. And that's how menthol was born. That's how menthol cigarettes were born.
Wow.
So he always pointed out, he's like, I figured out in my kitchen with this bag and like a pile of mint what it took them, all this scientific research and hundreds of thousands of dollars to figure out.
That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, and it's really interesting, especially when you consider how much like essential oils and plant extracts go for. Like they're really expensive. So if you came to market with like a solid essential oil extract, it's the same difference between like BHO and hash. The trichome head is intact.
So something I'm really interested in is catnip. So there's some evidence that cats evolved to like catnip because it has insect repellent properties.
Okay.
And it's a member of the mint family, and mint is kind of known, like they'll use mint oil, I think, in like Lost Coast plant therapy and shit like that. So I'm thinking that catnip oil could be good for both people and for plants for like insect issues.
Oh, it's definitely, I mean, people drink it as a tea. People have smoked it before.
I've smoked a lot of catnip, actually. It tastes really good.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm sure people put it in like changa blends and stuff all the time. It's like you said, it's a member of the mint family. It's produces lots of essential oils. It's got a lot of similar properties to other herbs. People cook with it occasionally. It's like it's not just happened. Like what people, I don't know. Some people know, but cats act the same way. Some cats even more so with valerian.
Huh.
Cats freak out over valerian the same way that they freak out over catnip.
Did not know that.
Yeah, and Esso he talks about that silver vine stuff. I've never seen that, but that comes in like blends with catnip a lot.
Huh. Wonder if that has insect repellent properties as well.
It's like a chicken or the egg thing, though, right? Because it's like they probably like it because of the effect it has on them, and it just so happens to also have those sort of benefits.
Dude, it's evidence. Okay, do you know what Lamarckian evolution is?
I've heard the term, but I couldn't tell you what it is.
It's like the opposite of Darwinian evolution, and it hasn't been proven yet. But it's the idea that like the giraffe kept reaching for taller trees, so its neck grew longer. As opposed to the giraffe with a longer neck fucked more and made more babies or whatever. And I don't know. I have this theory actually that as humans are scientifically aware of the world for a longer and longer period of time, like we're going to witness evolution take place, and we're going to learn that it is not strictly Darwinian. I think we're going to learn that there are mechanisms for Lamarckian evolution. I don't know what they are, but there's too many, like there's just too much weird shit, like the catnip thing. How the fuck did that happen? There's no way that's a coincidence.
Well, I mean, you can make the same argument for like drugs. Like, why do they work? Why do we have receptors that are able to be activated by these exogenous chemicals, right? And it's like, again, it's a chicken or the egg thing, and it might, I don't know, might be weirder than that. It might be bigger than that. You know, like,
yeah,
it might be like the way that like, so if you start looking at planets as like a singular, like an organism, like a life form.
Yes.
Then you could look at like all the species as like different tissues, right?
Yes.
Like organs.
I think about that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Like
we're like the nuclei of the cells or something.
Or like, you know, it's like there's the levels of repetition, right? So it's like every cell is like singular and whole unto itself, but then the more you go down the line, the little subtle differences add up into like these huge effects once you get to like the next order of magnitude up, the next like scale up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just I don't know, when you look at it like that, you're like, well, then like the same way, like how does your, you know, look at like neurotransmission itself, where you got like synapses and you have a, you know, like communication between two cells on a chemical and an electrical level. Like, you know, like that's what difference, how is that different than like an animal in an environment eating a chemical, like eating a mushroom, eating something psychoactive, right? Like there's communication going on a level that transcends language. And like, you know, like your brain doesn't talk to your hand in English, right? Like the science still doesn't know how you decide to move your hand and it moves, right? Like we could talk about mechanisms and electricity and neurotransmission, calcium gates and shit, but it's explaining parts of it, but it doesn't explain the whole thing.
Okay, so I have another theory too, that we're gonna learn what consciousness is, and we're gonna be shocked to discover it everywhere in exactly that type of scenario. You know, like that the Earth itself is conscious on a level, and that plants are conscious on some level.
Yeah, like we're embedded in a brain of sorts.
Like as we figure out and develop AIs on computers and like, you know, start to, you know, develop shit on that end, I think we're just going to find it elsewhere in the world.
Yeah, it's like Stamets is, you know, like in a lot of his recent books, he reiterates like the structure of mycelium and how like you find it as a hurricane, you find it as a black hole, you find it as dark matter, you know, like it's this reiterating you know, concept that transcends different levels. And yeah, I think it's weird. Like it's almost like I don't know, like back when the 2012 thing was so huge and like McKenna and like all that stuff was like at the forefront of everybody's like psychedelic thought process. It's like one of the things that he said that was so interesting. Like, I don't know, it's like this idea that like before before this you know, synchronicity, before this singularity, things are on like a sort of either or situation, right? Like, and then they move to more of a both and kind of orientation, right? Like kind of going from like Newtonian, Einsteinian kind of worldview to like a quantum worldview where like all things are kind of included, right? Like all things are happening at the same time, right? Like time, the past, present, and future like exist simultaneously, right? Like that kind of worldview. And yeah, I mean, you're gonna. I think if you look hard enough, there's justification for any perspective, right? Because it's like everything's dynamic.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
And like I don't know, like what you're talking about reminds me of like the Jains, like Jainism, where they're like so super conscious, like so conscious of this concept of like ahimsa, nonviolence, where they have face masks and they walk with brooms and like they don't want to like step on small creatures, they don't want to breathe things in, like yeah, like they're on a level with it.
Mm.
And it's like imagine yeah, imagine like this, this awareness that you're talking about, that like yeah, maybe things that you previously thought were inanimate, or maybe like consciousness and matter just don't have the same relationship that you necessarily thought they do. Like they have a relationship, but it might not be what you thought it was.
To add a whole new layer of trippiness to the thing, if you draw a map of where in the brain the 5-HT2A receptors that psychedelic drugs work on are, it is pretty much a one-to-one equivalency with the map of like new brain that separates humans from the rest of the apes and animals.
Sure, that I mean, that's interesting. It's like yeah, all like prefrontal cortex, right? Like all like the newer apparatus.
And like animals, when they eat psychedelic drugs, don't really experience the same effects that humans do. You know, they get disturbed and like, you know, sedated or whatever and fucked up, but not like people do.
Well, there's no way to really know that 100%, right?
That's true, I suppose, but they infer it from the relative lack of density of 5-HT2A receptors in most animals' brains.
Interesting. I mean, that would make sense. But yeah, like subjectively, it would be really hard to know because I don't know. It's like they do all that research and stuff, and even when they're using animals that they're eventually going to kill and dissect and things like that, you're still not getting like a live view, right? So like it's really like how do they know if it's activation as a result of like receptor binding, or if it's like downstream activation from like a secondary activation,
And the thing, actually, there is some evidence to suggest that. Like the fact that there is a come up period, you know? Like
Mm-hmm.
uh if it were direct activity on the 5-HT2A receptor, it would have a timeline like any other drug where it kicks in 15 minutes, or like I don't know. Yeah. Mushrooms, I guess, are a little more direct, but mescaline and LSD certainly have come ups.
I mean, this is definitely like a topic that I've been thinking about for a really long time, and like I had something written, and like I lost a journal when I was living in someone's basement, and it flooded.
Fuck.
But it's the idea is basically that like when you look at the molecules, phenethylamine and tryptamine, you look at the different series, and then you look at the receptors, right? And your brain also contains phenethylamines, right? Noradrenaline, and adrenaline, or epinephrine and norepinephrine.
And dopamine
They,
too.
yeah, and so like I don't know, we all played with that ball where it had the square peg and the square hole, right? Like it, it stands to reason in my mind that if you look at like a phenethylamine and you try to place it into a serotonin receptor, that there's a really good chance that it's not gonna bind. It's not gonna like dock. Like it's the receptor might not even notice that it's there because the receptor consists of like all these points, all these docking points, right? And it's like there's stuff banging around. If it lets anything bind to it, then it would constantly be firing. So like it's got to have that selectivity where a square peg only fits in a square hole. A round peg doesn't fit in a square hole. So when you look at the brain, you look at neurotransmission, it stands to reason in my mind that phenethylamines most likely dock at norepinephrine or adrenaline receptors. because they most closely resemble that in shape. Like
They do bind to those receptors as well. But it's the 2A 5-HT2A receptor that mediates psychedelic activity. The reason that they can bind to the 2A receptors, the serotonin 2A receptor, is because that the serotonin and dopamine receptors have a common like evolutionary history. I forget which one evolved from the other one, but
interesting.
so that's
So
why you
I
can
know that like the
have cross
literature
binding.
states that the HT2A receptor is like paramount. But remember that dude Traeger
Yeah.
on the Nook? He would like go on and on about like which psychedelics had affinity for which receptors to like which extent.
Mm-hmm.
So like I know there's more involved than that. And I just think I think the way that science is restricted in terms of only looking at it from the outside in, and they're looking for like essentially residues, essentially shit that already happened, and they're trying to play detective and piece it together. And so they already have a hypothesis, so they're biased. So like this idea that it's all psychedelics bind at the 5-HT2A receptor, I think it's like maybe missing the point. I think maybe all psychedelics cause downstream activation of the 5-8, like they cause it to flare up and a lot of activity to happen as a result of secondary processes. And I also think, like currently the view in the literature is like lock and key, right? Like the receptor opens a lock and something happens, right? I think from the nature of like the experiences that I've had that it's more likely a disk in a drive, right? Like where there's actually information being transferred that's specific to the neurotransmitter that's binding. I think it's probably, there might be more to it than just the ion channel opens and closes. That might just be the part that you can measure.
So they've genetically sequenced the receptors, and with complex computer modeling, they can kind of verify that the phenethylamines actually do bind to the 5-HT2A receptors by like computing the electromagnetic fields and shit like that. And so there is something to that. However, like they just keep chasing more and more potent 5-HT2A activators to try and learn more about how it works, and that's where all these N-bombs and shit came from. And by the fact that the subjective experience of the N-bomb sucks and how toxic they are, I do think we can safely conclude that the 5-HT2A receptor isn't like the only part that matters.
Yeah, I definitely think, it's obviously heavily involved. I just wonder, that's interesting that they, if they're actually able to verify that it's binding, then that's like a whole nother level of, fidelity in terms of viewing like this information. But I don't know. I think there's more to explore there that hopefully as like the resolution gets better, they're able to come up with something for sure. But I don't know. It's like such a it's like kind of like the idea of like consciousness. Some people think it's like from the top down, and other people think it's from the bottom up. Like the more rational think that the brain is a physical thing that hatches the mind, right? The mind exists when the brain comes together physically. And the mind exists as a result of the processes of the brain. And other people think that, the panpsychists, other people think that like matter condenses around consciousness, and it's like, it's a similar kind of, I think like those two viewpoints, that spectrum, I think if you apply that to like, psychedelic neurochemistry, then like I want to know what the other side of the argument is. Like, what are the people who don't agree with the current literature? What is their argument?
There's a lot to be learned. We really live in an amazing time.
Yeah, no, I mean it's happening quick, and the people who have any objection to it are, the main ones are falling off quick. They're not long for this world,
They're outnumbered anyways.
and they're just not generally as tech savvy.
Yes, that too.
So it's like in lieu of the parking lot that's not looked at where you can go hang out after school. It's like the digital world, the metaverse. Oh God, that's where we've all escaped to.
Dude, the whole internet thing, back to the planet as an organism thing, like the planet is evolving a nervous system.
Sure, I mean you could argue that like I don't know. Like I got so sucked into the psilocybin thing for so long. Like it really was like at a point in life where it really seemed like super logical that, you know, if it's like the Russian dolls, right? Like you go up the organism, the organ system, the macroorganism, all this, right? Like if it's all the repetition embedded like over and over again, then like it would stand to reason that if say psilocybin mushrooms were the brain of the planet rather than the brain of like an individual primate or anything else, like wouldn't it stand to reason that it would need like a higher bandwidth neurotransmitter? And isn't it interesting that it's only a few steps away from serotonin? Like the relationship between serotonin, DMT, and psilocybin is like it blows me away.
So DMT, I think, is actually maybe the real link to psychedelia. Like, I think that's probably what the receptors were originally there to receive, right? Because there's DMT in our bodies naturally.
Yeah. And it's highly suggestive, right? Like in the same way that you were talking about the Lamarckian evolution, right? Like it's so like it doesn't even have to be that, right? Because going back just textbook school biology, right? Like mitochondria were originally another organism,
Yeah.
right? So they just ate it and it was like, oh, you know what? It's actually copacetic in here. Like this works. Like and it was just like a development in that fashion. So I don't know, like when you look at I have wondered like if you were able to dig up like proto hominids, right? If you were able to get some brain meat out of a Neanderthal or something, you could, I wonder if they had the same relationship with like so what is serotonin built from? Like 5-hydroxytryptophan, right?
Yeah.
5-HTP. Right.
Um,
So what if
yeah.
like what if earlier hominids were sort of like running on a more primal like 5-HTP based system, and they had flashes of serotonin the way that we have like flashes of DMT, right? Like if a Neanderthal almost died, it like just felt normal to us for a second, right? Like it became like aware that it like had a body and shit. And then if you extrapolate that forward, right? Like I don't know, the relationship between like ayahuasca and like aliens and like in the lore, in the art, like it would be crazy. Like the Terrence McKenna talked about like the UFO as like the oversoul and like the alien as us, right? And it's like, could that just be like a representation of like what humanity is going to be moving forward, and like the UFO represents like the pinnacle of technology, right? Like the mastery of time and space. Like it's like a metaphor, right? And it's like imagine the alien being just like the next iteration of the human, and it's like on this
Oh.
DMT base with, and then like the next logical step would be to like automate everything, right? That's kind of like where everything is going, right? So like what if you could automate your biology, right? Like what if you could automate reproduction, and what if you could automate food acquisition? And it's like, look at the psilocybin mushroom, right? Like, look at the fungus, and look at how it's like just a automated, forever growing brain. It's just like this solid state server to create that brain space that when you eat it, you go in there and you're like, holy shit, this is how the planet thinks.
That actually makes some sense, though.
You know, it's like that's like from a subjective point of view, it kind of like holy shit, you know, you get to see on that higher bandwidth.
Hmm.
It's like that's also interesting, even on like a physical level, like because there's mycelium running through like the entire planet, right? Like under the oceans and shit. So when you're on certain psychedelic drugs, plant based especially, and you're like plugging in, you're like logging into a Wi-Fi network, and that's like people in Kansas will see, you know, Aborigines, you know, like they'll drink ayahuasca and they'll see, you know, people in the jungle fucking with paint on their face. They'll see jaguars and shit, and it's like in a sense, the server might just be moving. You might just be pulling up a website in a sense, you know.
Tapping into the
Whatever's local
mainline.
there, you know. Yeah, exactly. Like the underground internet, like the web of plant roots and mycelium that essentially is like hands across America, right? Like it's crawling through the whole planet. Stick something else in the dirt, see if he gets better reception. Hey, what are you doing over there? We're camping.
uh, edibles kicking in. Edibles kicking in. Yeah, I played with that a lot actually. JMO is the shit. Yeah, yeah. It can simulate all kinds of like extremely. I mean, it'll take days to do some pretty intense simulations with that thing on all but the greatest machines. You really want to model some giant molecules and shit.
Oh man, this website's doing a drop in an hour. I'm curious about. I'm like, damn, what are they gonna put out? This flower that I got wasn't even like their best stuff, you know, according to the pricing and according to the testing results. But man, it's definitely some of the. I mean, I haven't bought weed in a long time, but it's some of the best weed I've ever paid for in my life. Yeah, yeah, it's the what do they call it? This strain is called Spritzer, which I've never heard of before, but
Hmm.
stank. So what else is going on, fellas?
I'm waiting for it to not be hot. I have one more hot day tomorrow, and then it's going to be beautiful until winter comes.
Yeah, it's been nice the last few days here, and then a week of 90s and hot nights. And next Friday should be the end of that. Oof.
That sucks. Are you still in Wisconsin? Scotty! Yeah, boy.
Damn, that's crazy. I thought, the other side to those winters was like milder summers, but you're still getting cooked.
Depends on where you're at. Like northern Wisconsin, northern Minnesota, it's substantially colder summers up there.
Some big ass states you got out there.
I got my deer tags. I'm excited. That's another reason I needed to cool off is so I can hang a deer.
How many are you allowed per year or per season?
I still have the opportunity to purchase more, but so far I've got 2 tags.
Okay.
On the 12th, they're first come, first serve, the leftover tags until they're gone. So I'm trying to get like at least 2 or 3 more. We'll see. I have an alarm set on my phone. I got to be Johnny on the spot on the internet, on the website when that shit goes, and hope the website doesn't crash from being overloaded.
It's like an eBay auction. It's like sniping. Like you need like a special bot to get you in there first.
For real, dude. I should write some sort of a web bot scraper thing. I should learn how that works. Automate the process. Actually, that's not a fucking bad idea.
I'm gonna grab some weed and roll another blunt.
Got 2 to 3 weeks maybe left before I flip these photo periods, I'm thinking.
How tall do you, how, are they already in like the big containers or are they still in smaller containers?
They're in their final containers, yeah. I'm kind of flying by the seat of my pants because I've never grown these before. I don't know how much they're going to stretch. And I'm also pheno hunting, so there's 9 different plants inside this bed. So,
how long do you usually veg them after you transplant them?
oh, I don't even know. I guess I don't really have a usual. It depends on how many plants I'm having the space and stuff.
Gotcha. That was always my I was always in like a rush because of how like the project started. I never got comfortable where I realize now after I had let some, I'd finally gotten over the hump, but I was putting plants that were too small in because I was just so trying to stay on point with like the perpetual like every week. And I really like overall it still was more per year, but if I was able to, I don't know, beef up my veg room or do something to put slightly larger plants in, I would have grown twice the amount in the amount of time that I was there.
What are you going to do next?
I'm not really sure. As of right now, it looks like selling the crib. Like I know Zoom's looking around at like certain possibilities, but like if that doesn't pan out, then most likely just gonna sell it and then put some of the money into the market, put some of the money just into savings, live off some, and use like a little chunk just to try to get something going. Like I don't know, like I'm curious. So I'm glad this THCA thing is so current because I might, if everything pans out and it looks like that's going to be like the way it goes for at least another couple years, I might throw my hat in the ring there and open up a shop in town and just push the limit and just see what's up. Just like mix it up a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, will your house is in Pennsylvania, right? Will they license you to grow indoor hemp, supposedly, at your place there?
Well, I don't know, to be honest. I haven't looked into like the hemp growing license at all, and I don't know if a lot of these guys are even doing that. Like I know there's a few of the THCA outlets. They're not necessarily like huge operations, and they just do drops when they have something to move, and it's usually those are the guys with like the higher quality, and I think they're just black market guys who just kind of crossed over. I don't think anyone's getting licensing.
Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah. And I mean, because like here's this angle too, right? Like say I'm gonna do it in New Jersey, not where my house is, right? I essentially like there's all these wholesale opportunities where I could just buy shit and resell it. And the numbers are so good and the quality is so good that if you're able to like, not get arrested, make bank.
As long as you got that COA.
Yeah, no, I mean most of those are fake anyway.
Yeah, for real, dude.
It's all like one fucking testing lab that all these places. It's like one person's just photoshopping the next. It's nuts.
Like, it's probably just weed, right?
It
Like, I
is.
mean, it's just weed that they got some fake COA for. It's never been analyzed. It's just weed that they sell on the internet, right?
I'm sure like one or two people got COAs, or maybe like every company gets like their first round of drops. They get COAs, and then they just put that up. But yeah, like what's even more interesting is like that's totally a part of the hemp bill. Like you're totally allowed for the testing for compliance. You're allowed to cut product. You cut the plant off at up to 30 days before harvest.
Yeah, dude. And that's insane. But I mean, that pretty much guarantees it's all going to be acid form.
I mean, it guarantees that. I mean, it's like yeah, like it's a very interesting situation, right? Because like yeah, like I don't know how they're overlooking such a simple thing, but they are.
I think I think they just don't know.
I mean,
I,
at this point though, like they got like the DEA has scientists, right? Like the government is not like most of them are idiots, but like they hire smart people. They pay them good money. And there's got to be someone who's like, "Hey, don't you realize that once you set this on fire, it's just regular ass weed?" But it's not. It's type
I
1. It's type 1 hemp.
I feel like the people in Congress are the people that don't know, and they're the ones making the rules that matter.
It's just
They're just like old and retarded and wouldn't understand if you explained it to them anyways.
I think it's like, if there wasn't CBD and Delta 8 everywhere for the last how many years, like I don't think this would fly. And the fact that everyone's just kind of used to seeing that at this point is
Yeah,
why it's not causing a stir.
I agree. I think that goes a long ways, and I think people just think it's another kind of CBD and just don't understand.
Plus, like they've been like everyone's so well versed because it's not just the CBD, right? CBD opened the door, but then everyone started selling like those weird synthesized cannabinoids, THCP and THCO and HHC and
Yeah, that shit's weird, dude.
8 and Delta 10. Yeah, and they're getting away with that. Nobody's kicking their door down. Every smoke shop, every little convenience store, quick check. Like, I mean, gas stations.
I
It's
think
it's
the DEA is actually regulating some of those synthetic cannabinoids now.
yeah, and on a state by state basis, they're getting regulated, but they're just I think it's enough grandmothers, enough people who are mad about it have seen that at Quick Check or wherever they're gas station, like they're running into it, and they're just like, I'm defeated. Like they probably don't even think about it anymore. And so why not just slide the regular weed in there? Especially if the government goes out of the way, which they did, to like reiterate that, yeah, like this is the ruling, and if it's got less than this, then it's fine. And it's like, okay.
You can get Delta 9 gummies at the organic food grocery store in that town now. It's crazy.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
the claim is it's hemp derived. Because here's the thing: is like they're going by the weight of the gummy.
Which
So
is
you could make it any dosage you want as long as you make the gummy big enough so that the weight is less than 0.3. Yeah, you could sell a 500 milligram gummy if it was like, the right weight. Put another tablespoon of sugar in there, you're good.
yeah, it's totally nuts, dude. Some states have cracked down on it a little bit. In South Dakota, they won't license you to grow hemp to grow it for flower for CBD. You have to grow it for like fiber or oil seed, which is
Oh,
retarded.
wow.
But
They're just super haters because like Tennessee, like a lot of states that I wouldn't have thought, like North Carolina, Tennessee, they're like the bigger players in this THCA space.
really
Yeah, North Carolina especially. They got the
interesting.
dank anyway.
I suppose they've got a nice long growing season. Kind of humid, but
But like there's indoor, like it's a lot of the shit that I got was indoor. I got indoor, no-till, living soil, flower for dog shit cheap.
what a world.
Yeah, because I mean, all these places, they give you like a discount. You sign up and they send you an email, right? And then, like, if you dig around the internet a little bit, you can find coupon codes and you get take like a 30% coupon code on something that's on sale. And, you're walking away with apparently some dank ass fucking weed for just a couple of bucks.
You just don't tell my custies about this shit, all right?
No, I'm telling you, you've like that's just grab this stuff and like at this point, like the prices are good enough even at the retail. Like they're selling retail pounds for like 1,800
Jesus
without even a
Christ.
wholesale account, and it's
Fucking you get a
fire.
COA with it. You can
Yeah,
just
you
sell it
get.
as weed or
I
sell it
mean,
legally.
you
So
get a COA
store.
with it, but I mean, if you have clients, if you got people that are looking, they would be more than happy. This is, I mean, I never got like my local plugs never had this type of quality for anywhere near this number.
Uh,
Once you start telling people it's hemp, they think it's not going to work or it's sprayed or something. That's why I just bought the gram real quick and I was like, yo, this is just regular weed.
how's the moisture on it?
It's nice. Everything about it's nice. I mean, I think they might cryo cure it,
Hmm.
but it doesn't seem to affect it at all. It's tasty, it's smooth, it's potent, it's pretty.
I think a lot of that THCA flower is cryo cured because it preserves the acid form.
Sure. I mean, what's interesting is if you go even back, like look at like old testing sites or look at like weed maps and find shit from like that was posted years ago, right? Like you can still see people going to regular dispensaries years ago, 10 years ago, and the label on them, if they broke it down into different cannabinoids, all this weed has always been under point 0.3. Like the large majority of all the weed out there, no matter if you cryo it or not, as long as you don't fucking grow it for 4 extra weeks and dry it with a heater, all this weed has always been under point 0.3 delta 9 in flower form. A lot
Wild.
of people, a lot of people think just letting it sit around will decarb it, but that guy Sam the Skunk Man, Dave Watson, he pointed. I don't remember them offhand, but on Hash Church a bunch of times he pointed out studies where they analyzed weed that was sitting around for a year and a half, and it didn't decarb almost at all. So it's like they're going through certain procedures, but I don't know how much they even have to, especially since once it's tested and then you can cut it, you cut that sample at 30 days before harvest. And how does anyone really know? So it could be 25 days, right? Like you could say, oh, we thought we were going to harvest it at 50 days, but it turned out to need an extra 10, right? Like, so we harvested it at day 20 instead of day 30, right? Like, no one really knows when you cut it. So it's like you cut that flower, and once it's tested and once you get that certificate of compliance, you're compliant. Whatever happens between then and harvest doesn't matter. Whatever's in the flower at that point doesn't even matter. And you could at that point use that argument to your advantage, be like, "Oh, it's been sitting around." I'm gonna go gut this blunt real quick. I'll be right back.
Hmm. Oh, about 4 o'clock, I think, is when we started. Poop knife.
Back in action. Oh man, is anyone doing anything tomorrow for Labor Day? Back again? It's communist bastards.
I don't know.
Barbecuing for fucking forever.
Pasty wants me to run to town tomorrow. I don't know. I think the shit I want to go to might be closed, though.
I just want to eat grilled meats.
Do grocery stores usually close for Labor Day?
They usually close early, I think.
Okay. Well, that could still work then. Edibles kicking in. Sleep. Not far.
Oh man, he said I'm taking it down early tonight.
Fucking last night I fell asleep at like 8 o'clock, but then I woke up in the middle of the night and couldn't fall back asleep for a few hours, and I still didn't wake up until like 10 o'clock this morning.
I eat those DXM pills. Those will keep you down. 2 or 3 right
Yes.
before bed, it's the move. All right, a fresh bean rolled. Yeah, I don't know. I was like, at first, like the THCA thing, I was like, oh man, I can like set up shop and like do my thing again and, kind of keep it pushing. And then, like, the more I thought about it, I was like, is it even worth setting up like to grow and do the whole thing when there's so much available really good product right now at great wholesale prices.
That's a good point too. I mean, it's sort of a speculative venture too, because they could change the regulatory bullshit at any time out from under you. I don't know. The cactus thing almost seems more of a sure bet, right?
The cactus thing, like at least for as long as people stay interested in collecting them, like I don't know how long that's gonna last, but it stands to reason that I don't know, like especially it's easier and easier to access like the international market, and the international cactus collecting scene is a lot bigger than just like the local. Like it's growing here, but I just don't know. Like it seems like there's legs to it just because a lot of people are growing them for fun, like with no intent on consuming them.
Well, I mean, as long as you keep most of your collection as also mescaline bearing, even if the collector market crashes, you can always just extract them and sell the crystals.
Yeah, that's definitely that was always my thought. But the older I get, it's like, damn, am I gonna actually be able to move them?
I think I could do it.
Oh yeah, no. If I mean, if you feel like you could tap into that again, then yeah, do it. I wonder if I really have it in me to get that you know foot soldier level again.
Yeah, I mean, it is a lot of bullshit. It's a lot of work and a lot of bullshit.
Plus, it's like you've had experience in like that festival scene. I never did anything like that, so
And I used to go work the festivals, and it was not that great. I was very glad to move up one rung. But even that comes with its own bullshit. People in that
yeah,
industry are not known for their reliability, punctuality.
sure. Yeah, no, there's the gimmies and the gotchas, right? There's the pros and the cons. I just got kind of like, quote unquote, lucky in the sense that I started so young that like everything was friend to friend, word of mouth until literally a few years ago, until I moved to Pennsylvania and like fell off the map. Until then, like I just had like this never ending chain of like acquaintances that turned into like business stuff and like outlets or plugs. And yeah, I never really was like out there trying to like drum it up, like except for in high school, like. But I never did anything like that with like festivals or the lot scene or anything. So I wouldn't even know square one. Like nowadays, people think I'm a fucking cop. It's nuts.
Yeah, I run into that sometimes too, actually. People think I'm straight edge, and I'm just like, really? Are you insane? I've been, I
Yeah.
don't know, whatever.
People
But
think if you're not like totally burnt out, that like there's no way you're into drugs or anything.
yeah, which is stupid in its own way. But
It's just far from true.
yeah, dude, I tell people all the time, like, humans co-evolved with drugs, dude. Like, this is not some foreign substance we're introducing to the body per se. This is, the universe communicating with itself. This is
It's
one natural organism interfacing with another.
it's like human cognition is tripping on serotonin, right? Like it's like your everything you've ever experienced has been a drug.
Yeah.
And like people access you know their pharmacy differently. Some people supplement exogenously, other people like do activities and alter it endogenously, right? The best move is probably to do a healthy mix of both.
Yeah.
Best in quotes, right? Optimal. Platonic solid. I got some nice genetics, cactus genetics on the back porch right now, and I got a couple of yotes that are just like busting with the steams right now, just doing real well. I'm like looking forward to I'm gonna cut some plants up and graft during the once I bring them in for the fall. Graft a bunch of yotes onto some tall ass San Pedros and bridge the eye.
Nice. I don't know what I'm waiting for to start these loaf seeds.
Oh, they're the most fun. I mean, just make sure you have your graft stock and shit ready because, like, they're so fucking fragile that as soon as they pop and you got little globes, like, it seems crazy, but yeah, as soon as you see something, take those fuckers and graft them because they just do so much better once they're grafted. They're so much easier to take care of too.
Totally. I can you graft seedlings onto, like, I've only ever grafted seedlings onto Preskyopsis. Can you graft them onto Pedros?
Yeah, totally.
Interesting.
I mean, the rate of growth is negligible, right? Like, Paraskeopsis are definitely faster, but they also need to be taken off sooner. Like, they're not as durable.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
I mean, I'm in no rush. I'm not in a rush like that. Pedros are plenty. Like the acceleration when grafted to a Pedro is just fine. I have some that I did a couple years ago that got so big. Like I did it and I put it on like a 4.5, 5 inch like little bridge ZI, right? Like maybe only 2 inches around, like just a small little offshoot. And yeah, like it's the peyote is like a fucking hand grenade with a billion pups, and it is sucking the stock dry. It is like
Hmm.
the San Pedro cannot stay healthy. It's kind of weird. Yeah, man. Just after seeing like the Reddit community with the San Pedro cactus for sale, like there's like it's nuts. That one cut
There it
Althea
is.
seems to be really really popular. Very pricey.
I really wonder what the potency difference is between that and what I've got going here, you know? The only way to find out is to spend the money too, so
Yeah, and it's like how many are people going through where they really like they might try it and be like, "Wow, that was a really potent experience," but it's like how many other ones have you really tried to weigh it against?
yeah, I wonder that too. It'd be nice if we had better, easier lab testing for that type of thing.
There's definitely more information out there now like people have done that, post trout. And there's stuff if you look around, if you poke around, there's something I dug up recently. But it's like it's the same numbers that we know from the lit where yeah, it can go up to a pretty high percent, but most of them are pretty low.
Mm.
That's why the one thing about the clone scene is interesting cuz if they are, if they do have a reputation for being potent, it's the same as like weed, right? We didn't have any testing, we didn't have any, but people just did. You probably smoked more weed than you have tried different cacti strains.
Mm-hmm.
But it is a data point, even if it's anecdotal, right? Like something called like hyperspace pixie or shaman's dream might be more potent.
It would be neat to study alkaloid profiles too. I think there's a lot we don't know there yet.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think what people are gonna hopefully get to the conclusion is that there's like an entourage effect for all these things. Like psilocybin mushrooms have DMT in them in small amounts. They have baeocystin. They have like all these like different weird like sort of close to psilocybin but not.
Mm-hmm. like single N-methyl or like nothing on the nitrogen, and then HO or 4PO.
I mean, doesn't seem like it's super popular in North America, but I know in Europe there's like a church of Psilohuasca, people who, mix MAO inhibitors with mushrooms. And if there's a significant amount of all those other things in there, they're being amplified as well. And DMT, if there's a significant amount of DMT, that's actually being activated, right? And what if DMT is not the only active tryptamine that isn't orally active without MAO inhibition? Like, what if some of those other weird, 5 substituted tryptamines and the baeocystin and norbaeocystin, what if some of those aren't even active until they're MAO inhibited, and then you're throwing that in the mix?
I think there's a good chance of that, actually.
Yeah, it stands to reason, right?
Oh, cool. Stillwater Prison in Minnesota had about 100 inmates, had taken over a living unit for a while.
Holy
Situation
shit.
resolved. Lockdown still in effect.
Fucking Attica over there. You heard anything about the Church of, I think it's like Methoxin?
Maybe.
Let me see if I can pull. Yeah, okay.
Is it
Wow.
the 5-methoxy DMT church?
Yeah, but it's not just that. Alright, so let me look and see, like, something more current. Let's see, I haven't read this yet. Let's see, what is this? Fungi fiction. Okay, so this is, okay, let me post this other one first. So, this is their own website, and it's fucking creepy. So what they're doing, I don't know if you remember, but there was a paper by those researchers, the Walking Gartz and what's his name, the John W. Allen guy, right? Like, they put out a paper years ago where if you supplemented a substrate with tryptamines, it would increase the potency of psilocybin mushrooms. I think they also did a paper where they added like DPT or something to the substrate.
Yeah.
And in the mushrooms, they found 4, phosphoryloxy DPT. And so what this church is doing, supposedly, which it looks like this next piece that I'm gonna post might actually find out that it's dubious, but they're claiming that they're putting 5-methoxy DMT into psilocybin mushroom substrate, and then the mushrooms are creating 5-dimethoxy, like whatever the combination comes out to be, and they're calling it silomethoxin or something, where it's like it's psilocybin with a 5-MeO on it. 5-MeO, 4-phosphoryloxy DMT. That's the claim.
I just don't know about that. I don't know if the enzymes will work when there's something else attached to the ring so close to where they're trying to work. We don't know if that is going to even be active at the receptor with all that shit on the ring. I don't know. That strikes me as dubious.
I don't know. I'm looking at this analytic. It says fungi fiction, so that leads me to think that there's not actually analytical investigation into the Church of Silomethoxin's alleged novel compound. And it looks like. Let me try here. Let's see, let me get back in here. Share your screen. Fungi.
Psilocybin, baeocystin, and psilocin were, however, unambiguously identified in the sample.
Surprise.
No evidence to suggest that the compound silomethoxin is present. Indeed, surprise, surprise.
If that does anything. Yeah, so I mean, and like you said, who knows if that would even be active or desirable? It most likely would be horrible. Like five substituted tryptamines are like bufotenine and gramine and shit that is more physically side effect ridden than positive, you know?
Yeah, I had a bad experience on the 5-methoxy DMT. I would not personally ingest that again.
Really? Did you did you smoke it or
Um, dude, so I ate it orally along with some MAOIs.
oh Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
By
yeah,
itself or in combination with other stuff?
just by itself.
Oh, how much did you take?
I don't really remember.
Oh my God. And what was the MAOI?
Syrian Rue.
Damn, dude. You're asking for it.
Yeah, it's true.
That's oof. Yeah, no, 5-MeO is it's one of the strongest drugs most people will ever encounter.
Um, dude, a friend of mine, well, an acquaintance of mine, I guess, bought a gram of 5-MeO AMT, alpha methyltryptamine.
Sure, I remember that stuff. I never tried it, but I remember it.
And dude, that shit was bad news bears. Like
Yeah, all
it.
that shit was
Oh
like
man.
cardiac issues and fucking hella toxic.
Yeah.
Sweating
Like
and temperature
very
regulation.
stimulating.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
like the alpha methyltryptamine, right? Like it makes sense, the 5-MeO AMT and the AMT. I'm surprised AMT isn't getting more like isn't like more around now because that was one of like the OG RCs before Web Trip. And
Huh.
it's so kind of obscure and you would think I don't know, I guess
I think
from
it's
what I
just undesirable. And there's
yeah,
better alternatives now.
that makes sense. I really want to try 4-HOMET and 4-HOMIPT. Those
Yeah, I'd be super interested. I tried 4-ACO MIPT before, and that was really good.
oh man, yeah, I would love to try something like that because I don't know, this issue with the psilocybin mushrooms and passing out, it makes me kind of like, you know, a little turned off to mushrooms and that's not how I want to feel.
Yeah.
Plus I just like the idea, everything I read about 4-HOMET, it seems like it's like a tryptamine 2CB. Like it's like more less mind fuck, crazy visuals, and you know, kind of
Mm,
chill.
mm.
Less like commitment,
Interesting.
less opportunity for like you know an alien to take over your body for a few hours.
Okay, so I also, uh, dude, I don't remember anymore. It's been too long. All I remember is that I tried the 4-HO and the 4-ACO of, I believe, DMT. And they were so clearly different drugs that, like, no one will ever convince me that 4-ACO or 4-PO are just pro drugs. Absolutely not. That shit is active at the receptor in that form.
Yeah, I was always skeptical about like the ACO DMT being so similar. Um, I'm
It
trying to
it
think.
was pretty mushroom like, but I mean it was definitely different.
Now, like, I wonder though, like, is that really is that is the operant factor the ACO or is it the lack of the entourage?
Well, having also taken 4-HO DMT, like it's both.
So 4-HO was available? Yeah, yeah, okay. I forgot 4-HO was even available.
For a
Or are you
while,
just
dude, you
saying
could get like every combination of everything almost. It seemed like this one Chinese supplier I was working with had all sorts of great tryptamines for a while.
yeah, no, I never went that far. I mean, I only bought research chemicals a few times, but I never tapped into China.
Dude, that was my bread and butter for probably like 3 or 4 years. I made my living doing that.
I when I was super young, like I got my first apartment when I was on the day I turned 18, and I well, like my first apartment on my own, and I ordered from this chemical company that was like right in New York, and it was 5-MeO DMT and 2CI. And I'll remember, I'll never forget the 5-MeO DMT. I bought 1 gram for $118, and I bought a gram of 2CI for like $129. And I started hitting people up when they landed, and dollar a milligram,
Yeah, dude.
and they flew.
Oh yeah, it was a license to print money.
Yeah, it was really interesting.
Dude, I eventually got it down to $30 a gram wholesale when I was buying like 10 or 20 at a time on the 2Cs.
Damn. Yeah, no, that's decent money, man. Those were good times.
They were. They were. I wish I hadn't have spent it all on opiates and shot it all up, but all the same, it was a fun time to be alive.
Yeah, no, it's definitely something to be a part of.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, what's for dinner?
I've been stuffing my face with uh ground beef, I guess, and chips.
Are you sure that you're not sure what kind of meat it is, or?
Well, I don't know what you want to call it. It's like ground beef and salsa and some weird dip thing that I scoop up with the chips.
Sounds dank.
Oh, yeah.
I got more pretzel coated chicken in the fridge. Too good.
This man is living in the 22nd century.
Pretzel coat everything, bro. Let's see, what else is good? Are you guys seeing this tab that I'm sharing, or no? Alright,
I'm
cool.
looking at it right here and now, but I can.
No, I was just curious if it was actually working or not.
Yeah, it was working earlier.
Alright, cool. Alright.
Whoa. In fact, I'm very full now. All right, I think I'm gonna go walk around outside for a while. Now the sun's going down.
Sounds like a plan, fellas. Keep me posted when you wanna get on the next one of these, and we'll shape it up.
Yeah, now we've got the kinks worked out on the Discord end of things. You know, if that works if we need it. We can try the Twitch next time, maybe. Yes, yes. Excellent. Well, good evening, gentlemen. I will see you next time.
Catch you guys in chat. Peace, peace.